Shabbat Shalom to everyone again. Thank you for a chance to speak with you this evening. The form of my message is going to be a little different, and you'll see why it is so. Classic movie pictures ran very long. The movie The Ten Commandments, 1956, was 220 minutes. Lawrence of Arabia was 216 minutes. The movie Exodus, which even though it's kind of a distortion of the history of Israel, is 212 minutes, and I love every minute of it. I even remember when there were intermissions during movies. I remember being at Hellman's Theater in Albany, New York, and it was before multi-theaters, and it was this gigantic screen, and going to the movies at that time was something special. My mother made us kind of dress up for the occasion. And the length of the movies we saw there at Hellman's Theater, I think Space Odyssey maybe, I don't fully recall. That's what I remember. Movies today that go over 2 hours are seen to be much too long. And as time has gone on, I believe, and I think there's some scientific studies that reveal this, people's attention spans have gone down. We Jews face the same challenge. People can no longer endure services that are endless. When I was growing up in a conservative synagogue, services on Yom Kippur began about 8:30 a.m. I think, they might have been earlier. And most often we didn't get out until close to 2 o'clock just for the break. And of course, then the services continued on and on and on until 3 stars in the sky. And the big discussion topic at breakfast at my grandmother's house, I remember this so clearly, was a comparison of the relative ending times among the various synagogues. So therefore, if they liked the rabbi and they were flattering to him because he got the people out earlier than the other synagogues. And for some crazy reason, I think members of my family thought the rabbis had some evil intent, depending on how long they lasted, the services lasted. And looking back at that many years later as a rabbi, these conversations seem absolutely crazy to me. Welcome to my life. But in tradition, the length is a factor, especially on the high holidays. There is the basic service that was established 2,000 years ago. What I would say the obligatory service, certain prayers that we must say according to Jewish law. Of course, there are places sometimes where we can skip. Now, why can the services end up being so long? There never was a completely official service. Different communities had different things within the service. And there are beautiful poetic creations called piyutim, which were written over a period of over 1,000 years, which over time added to the service and made the services longer. And as is the nature of Jewish tradition, people don't want to get rid of things. They want to absorb things. They want to collect things. So the service gets longer because one person loves this piyut, some people love that piyut, and say no one can make a decision. The thing just grows and grows and grows. Our own reason for creating the New Reform Temple, and for those of you who are not completely familiar with us, I want you to be aware of this, was our members, our creators wanted a crafted service. They wanted something that would be digestible, where people could feel that they had had a beautiful spiritual experience instead of having this kind of long-run religious marathon. To put it simply, our approach has always been less is more. And that's when Becky, Nathan, and I get together, we're conscious of the fact is we love the tradition, but there is a limited amount of time. That's a good approach that we all accept, and I think we are doing the right thing, both for our communities and for our own personal religious taste. But there is a cost. In this process of deciding, beautiful liturgical pieces are sometimes left out. And let me share with you tonight one of the great spiritual poems which is not in our Machzor, but it reflects something really extraordinary. It's so beautiful both in terms of its melody, which we're not going to get into tonight, but in terms of its poetry and its imagery. I need to share it with you because I think it will expand your sense of connection to this entire high holiday period and the entire worship of the high holidays that you will participate in. And I want you to know what's going on, and I want you to be fully aware and enriched. There's a part of the Yom Kippur service, it's entitled Slichot, Songs of Forgiveness. Once we have stated our sins in the liturgy, we ask God to facilitate forgiveness. God, let us go forward, in effect we're saying. Don't be so hard on us. Show us forgiveness. Now here is the poem that is included in that Slichot section. And it is called Ki Hine Kachomer. Consider the clay. Consider us the material. And let me read it to you, and then let me just reflect upon it a minute. But the words are much more interesting than anything I can really say about it. Let me read it to you, the best translation that I can find. It says, consider the clay in the potter's hand, stretched and rolled, as the artist desires. So are we in your hand, our loving protector? Look to the covenant, not our imperfections. Consider the stone in the mason's hand, broken or kept whole, as the stone cutter sees fit. So as we in your hand, creator of life and death, look to the covenant, not our imperfection. Consider the iron in the welder's hand, held to the flame or removed at will. So are we in your hand, provider for the poor and afflicted. Look to the covenant, not our imperfection. Consider the helm in the seafarer's hand, steering or drifting as a sailor wills it. So are we in your hand, O God of goodness and forgiveness. Look to the covenant, not our imperfection. And finally, consider the glass in the glazier's hand, round and melted as the artist desires. So are we in your hand, the one who pardons our errors and our wrongdoings. Look to the covenant, not our imperfections. I love this poem. I could just read this poem on Yom Kippur and sit silently for the rest of the day, contemplating it. It's based on a sentence from the prophet Isaiah who says, we are the clay and you are the potter. We are all the works of your hands. It's based on this very simple, very this worldly understanding of the world. It says, there are potters, there are masons, there are glass blowers, there are silversmiths who work with raw materials, crafting them, repairing that which becomes damaged, refining what is a little clumsy, continually reshaping their work into something new and more beautiful. And of course, the instinct was not to throw things away, but to make them whole again. Inspired by the artisan's dedication to constant improvement. This prayer expresses that God can help us to change the shape and direction of our lives for the better. The poet asks God to view us through a loving vision of the artist, to see us not as flawed and damaged creatures, but as people who could be more perfect vessels of the divine spirit. And we make a plea to God, saying in effect, since we believe that you are the God of compassion, patience, mercy, and grace, judge us the same. Religion doesn't get much better than this. Because it, for me, and I hope it for you, summarizes this entire process leading up to Rosh Hashanah and eventually to Yom Kippur. Judaism promotes this religious idea that we are not stuck in one form. We're not stuck. That we are truly capable of being reshaped. Our tradition affirms that God has created a world where human personality can grow. Our imperfections are the raw material for personal growth, for spiritual deepening. So we're not happy with ourselves. That's not a roadblock. That's an opportunity to reshape. The high holidays are rooted in this hope. Our vision is always forward. We are the eternal optimist about the human condition. As difficult as life can be, we see possibilities for growth. There is this wonderful saying, life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself. Now here is our choice. On these high holidays, we can believe that we are a mountain that will remain in the same place for eternity. We can believe that, or we can believe that we are raw materials. We're the clay. We're the stone. We're the iron. We're the glass. And we have the capacity with strength from God to make us into something glorious. That is our potential. That is the high holidays in a nutshell. We are the matter that never takes final shape. And we have the ability to shape ourselves in whatever way we choose. If we want to be more loving, we can do it. If we want to be more generous, we can do it. If we want to be more forgiving, we can do it. If we want to be more truthful, we can do it. Abraham Joshua Heschel, one of the great thinkers of modern Judaism in the 20th century, said this in addressing young people, and I will end with his inspiring words. Remember that there is meaning beyond absurdity. Know that every deed counts, that every word is power. And above all, remember that you must build your life as if it were a work of art. May each of us find a way to make that truth real in our lives. Shabbat Shalom. We are going to continue on page 300.